when I'm scaled up to a business 10 times the size of where I'm at now, everything has remained profitable throughout that journey, rather than just saying, okay, well, let's scale revenue, and then suddenly we're out of business because we spent all the cash we had.
The third step that I want to talk about with you, Lewis, now is how can we really turn up the gas? How can we really maximize our conversion rate and take our Shopify store to the next level?
Yeah, so I mean, the implementation of more advanced techniques can really kick in at this stage. And remember, you don't even have to be the one that leads the charge on these, because by this point, you have profit in the business and you can bring in the specialists, the experts in these areas, the developers that are skilled in this and do this for lots of stores, much, much bigger than yours. And so you could bring them in, and things like A/B testing, for example, you could find what are your winning products and then maybe create a optimized sales page for that product and split test it against the original, right? So that's where you send, say, 50% of your traffic to the original page and 50% of it to the newly designed, improved, optimized page, and see which one converts better. Run the test for a period of time, and once you have a statistically significant winner, you roll it out, and that becomes the new control. That's the new one that you then test other iterations against. And so that can be a really good addition to increase your conversion rate, because if you double your conversion rate, you've doubled your store's profit, which is and really, like, at low conversion rates, that's not that difficult to do. That's just removing a couple of friction points out of the business. Other things are adding more compelling call to actions throughout your store and just ensuring that you have that seamless checkout process. So for example, the one-page checkout that Shopify has just launched, just little things like that you can tweak and optimize and test out. It's like if you're getting ready for a night out and you try on a couple of different outfits before you're going out and you kind of test them out in the mirror, you're seeing which you'd prefer, and then you decide to go out with a winner, right? And you're like, yep, I like this one, I'm going to go with it. It's the same thing with split testing, except it's not you judging yourself in the mirror, it's your customers judging you with money. So getting the winner is really important and sets you up for a more profitable business, and it also sets future customers who come to your store up for a smoother, easier buying experience. So it's like win-win both ways. So you should constantly be testing these things. And yeah, it's definitely one of the key ways to scale. The other thing I'd mention is making sure that you monitor your key metrics as you go. So keep an eye on things like your conversion rate and your bounce rate and your other essential metrics in the business. It's like if you're training for a marathon, you're going out and you're wearing your Fitbit or Apple Watch or smartwatch when you're running. You wouldn't run a marathon without checking your pace, or your heart rate or your distance covered. Most people wouldn't. So it's the same in the race of business, right? Make sure you're not just running blindly and thinking, well, I think the business is going okay. It seems to be making money. Make sure you're checking your stats, pacing yourself so you can constantly improve, and what gets measured gets managed, as they say. Early in my career, I made the mistake of just focusing solely on conversion, so sales at all costs. I was like, we just got to make some sales, get some revenue in, great. And we were making lots of sales, revenue was very high, but profit wasn't where it needed to be, and it wasn't where I knew it could be either. And I was thinking, what's going on here? And I kind of looked at, okay, so we negotiated better margins with some suppliers, and we reduced our ad spend on certain brands that weren't as profitable as others. And over time, you start to see that return on ad spend, that ROAS, creep up. And I realized that was one of the metrics that I could really be focusing on. That's one of the levers in my business profitably, so that when I'm scaled up to a business 10 times the size of where I'm at now, everything has remained profitable throughout that journey, rather than just saying, okay, well, let's scale revenue, and then suddenly we're out of business because we spent all the cash we had. So it sounds simple, but a lot of people get a little bit, they jump the gun and they just want to scale at all costs too quickly, and it can be very problematic.
Yeah, completely agree. It's an exciting time, but you just need to make sure you're always profitable throughout that scaling process, and that's going to make it a seamless process for you without having the unnecessarily difficult ups and downs if you try and do things too fast. But this really might appeal to you. If you're the data-driven type of person, you might want to run these tests yourself. But as Lewis says, instead, bring in someone that's an absolute expert in the industry, as I have done, and they'll teach you how you can improve your conversion rate. They're experts at looking at your Google Analytics data. They'll tell you where your opportunities are, and they'll be able to run tests until we can find out how to fine-tune and keep improving the store's conversion rate and overall profitability. It's been a game changer for me working with some real experts and getting the business to that next level in that third step of the process. So lots of things covered there, Lewis. Thanks for taking us through that process, and hopefully people can take away lots there to build a Shopify store that they know can convert and turn their vision of an e-commerce business into a reality. So some actionable steps for people to take away from this, Lewis. Where would you recommend that people start?
Yeah, I mean, just to recap, really, just start with the foundations. Choose a niche that's in demand and meets the criteria that we talked about. Don't be the person that just dives into the deep end before you've learned to swim. You know, the stakes are too high. Make sure that you are learning first and then scaling up gradually. Choose the right platform and tools as well. We talked about, start with Shopify. It's the market leader for a reason, and focus on building a store that's simple for customers to buy from. But remember, you're also initially appealing to suppliers. And so remember, as you're turning up to that job interview, you don't want to be, you want to be confident and showing suppliers your store, but don't overthink it and end up delaying for months because you're chasing perfection. Remember, they don't care how expensive the suit is. They just want to see that you've taken the interview seriously. It's the same with suppliers. Implement what we've discussed, apply the 3 steps we've covered today, and just don't be afraid to learn from your mistakes. It's much easier to make mistakes before you've scaled than it is, and it's much less expensive to do that in the early testing stage. So start with those smaller weights first, build up gradually to the heavier weights, and don't try to scale too big too quickly because it will cause you problems in your business. And if you want to follow a system that teaches you how to build a dropshipping business capable of generating multiple 7 figures, grab a copy of my book, The Home Turf Advantage, from htabook.com.